Means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plains of the internet before we go ahead and get started. It looks like we're waiting for the stream to get cranking over on YouTube. Let's make sure that it's alive on YouTube. Looks like it's booting up over there. Had to clean up some stuff in the chat over there. Let's see. Make sure we're online elsewhere. Rumble, we're online over there. Don't see anybody in the chat. Odyssey, for some reason, looks like it's online. We're live on Twitch, we're live on Twitter, but we're not live on Facebook because I don't think anybody is live on Facebook, but that's just how things go sometimes. But we are here, so let's get into the news of the day, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gruller. I am a criminal defense attorney here at the R&R Law Group in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and I, over the course of many years, have represented thousands of good people facing criminal charges. And throughout our time in practice, we have seen a lot of problems with our justice system. I'm talking about misconduct involving the police. We have prosecutors behaving poorly. We've got judges not particularly interested in a little thing called justice. And it all starts with the politicians, the people at the top, the ones who write the rules and pass the laws that they expect you and me to follow, but sometimes have a little bit of difficulty doing so themselves. That's why we started this show called Watching the Watchers, so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. And we're grateful that you are here and with us today. The voice is coming back a little bit. Got that spotlight out there good this show. But we're going to get into some news on the program today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. I got to get out of here at about 5:15, 1 hour and 15 from now, because I've got a 5:30 meeting that I got to be at. I'm the chairman of that board on that meeting, and so I got to make sure I'm there. So we're going to wrap up a little bit early and skid through all of the news, but make sure you got your fingers ready on the keyboard if you want to be asking some questions. Today, we're diving into Kirsten Sinema from Arizona. Shout out. She was accosted in a bathroom stall over the weekend at Arizona State University, where I went to undergraduate. I know a little bit about some of the criminal laws in Arizona. I know it's not appropriate for somebody to be filming somebody else in the bathroom. We're going to go through A.R.S. 3019 in the Criminal Code, Title 13, and we're going to take a look and see whether this conduct was in fact criminal. Answer, yeah, it was not very good. So we're going to see what was going on with that story. Joe Biden came out and was like, well, it's kind of just how things are now in this United America. You better get used to that if you're trying to, relieve yourself. It's fair game, according to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's America. So we're going to look at what's going on there. And then Kirsten Sinema responded. And I have a little personal anecdote to share with you from Kirsten Sinema herself. So we'll dig into that. And in our second segment, we're going to change gears, take a look at what's going on with the Supreme Court. They started a new term today on Monday. They just opened up their October term. Got a couple interesting cases that we're going to talk about in October, but they have a lot of stuff coming up in November and really the big stuff in December. So we'll take a quick look at what SCOTUS is looking like, have a quick synopsis on a couple of the cases that we're going to be taking a look at, and then we're going to turn our eyes over to Pennsylvania, because we know the Supreme Court's going to be hearing the abortion case that is coming up in December. December 1st are those oral arguments. And so now you're seeing some really kind of very clever politicians from around the country saying, if you're going to do this to women, why don't we do it to men? And so there's a politician out of Pennsylvania. Guy's name is Christopher M. Rabb, R-A-B-B. And he's talking about forced sterilization for men. Oh, all right. So we're going to go through that. He actually posted something about this on the legislature website as a memo or sort of an introduction to a bill. So we're going to talk about male forced sterilization now. That's what the Democratic Party is really thrilled about. So, that's why the thumbnail today was all about privates. A lot of privates conversations happening. And in our last segment, we're talking about a lot of private banking records and bank accounts from a lot of very, very rich global elite. This is called the Pandora Papers. Just came out over from the Guardian, which is telling us that they got a whole treasure trove of documents that details billionaires, heads of state. We've got UK's Tony Blair. We've got Kenya's president, Uhuru Kenyatta. We've got Azerbaijan's president, Ilham Aliyev, all just racking up tons of property assets some of them on American dimes. So that's fun. All of that foreign aid and military aid that the United States sends over to these foreign dictators, they just sort of just go buy property with it, which is convenient. I mean, that's a good place to store your assets. So we've got a lot to get into and more. If you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. I see chatting away over there, Sweet Potatoes in the house. Joey Bandolero, we've got... they're just chatting away right now over there. Paula MK's in the house. Over on YouTube, we've got Chris Banks, Tim Granville. We've got Mangles the Cat. Vijaya's in the house. We have Eldon Taylor playing hooky, Just Cause, and Pepperoni saying, "Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon." Yeah, so that's going to be a new call to order for the foreseeable future. Every time you sort of feel a way about the president, you just say, "Let's go, Brandon." All right. So we've got a lot to get into. If you want to be a part of it, as I said, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. You can fill out this form. If you could keep the questions sort of in order in those different segments that I outlined, we'll do our best to make sure that we get to them today. Again, get those fingers ready. Get them typing on the keyboard because we're going to be rifling through the news. We also have a clips channel. So if you're looking for the clips, they're over on a separate channel. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt to subscribe to two channels, but you don't have to. If you only come here for the live, you can stick here for the live. But if you come and you sort of catch, the first 45 minutes on the live, you may not like that second segment. That's why you left, but you want to come and see the third segment, and you can just go right over to that clips channel, Robert Grueller ESQ clips, and then you'll be able to just get there easily without having to scroll through all the nonsense. And we'd appreciate your support. All right, so let's get into the news of the day, shall we? Kirsten Sinema, Arizona Senator extraordinaire, was accosted in the bathroom over the weekend at Arizona State University. She's a professor over there, teaches a class, and like many other people in the world, we have to go to the bathroom sometimes, even if you're a senator. Yes, they even have to go to the bathroom. And so she tried to do that, and she was accosted by a group of, I think, other Democrats. These were Build Back Better people. We're going to actually watch the video here today because it was insane. And I want to give you a quick look. Here's a preview of what's happening. You can see here, this is Kirsten Sinema. She's a United States senator walking out of the bathroom stall. We have some other lunatic lady over here with a cell phone, literally watching her coming out of the bathroom stall. It's a group of activists, says this headline. They were demanding that she address immigration issues. That's from the Daily Mail. And so you see some perverted, Build Back Better Looney Tune here, literally filming a woman in the bathroom, and that's not okay. I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's not okay. Seeing that before doesn't typically work out well for the person doing the filming. But let's grab a headline over from the Daily Mail. Says that this is the moment that activists chase Senator Sinema into a bathroom at ASU and demand she back Biden's $3.5 trillion social bill to address immigration issues. And so, the first thought that I have if somebody's accosting me as I'm going into the bathroom is I'm probably not going to just come to terms with you now. If you were going to, in other words, if you're like Sinema, you say, well, 1.5 trillion, that sounds reasonable to me. Then you're trying to go use the restroom and somebody comes and accosts you in that. Do you suddenly come out and go, oh yeah, I was wrong about that. I just had a few moments to sit down and think about it. Thanks for enlightening me. But you're right. Now I'm just going to go ahead and reverse my course, change all of my political perspectives, and just go ahead and agree with you. Add another $2 trillion. So the point here, was this effective at all in the first place? Probably not. Let's go on. It says a group of activists confronted Senator Kirsten Sinema in a restroom about her reluctancy to back Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan. That's the BBB plan. We have saying that they threatened to vote her out of office if she failed to fulfill her promises. Another not so good negotiating technique. One activist who identified herself as Blanca shared her own immigration story with Sinema, asking her to help find a, quote, pathway to citizenship. Video of the incident was shared on social media. Matt Gaetz says, deport Blanca over there. And Sinema, as we watch this, did not engage with the activist. So the full clip's about a minute and 47 seconds, I think. Let's just go ahead and watch it and see what's going on here. This is Kirsten Sinema, Arizona senator, in the bathroom. Here it is.
Okay, I'll be back.
Sinema, we want to talk to you real quick. Can we talk to you real quick?
Hi, actually, I am heading out.
Right now is a real moment that our people need in order for us to be able to talk about what's really happening. We need a Build Back Better plan right now.
We knocked on doors. We need solutions to the Build Back Better plan need has the solutions that we need.
What?
We knocked on doors for you to get you elected, and just how we got you elected, we can get you out of office if you don't support what you promised us.
We need 7 million citizenship for 7 million. We need the Build Back Better plan right now.
I think that's a dude in there.
My name is Blanca. I was brought here to the United States when I was 3 years old. And in 2010, my grandparents both got deported because of SB 1070. And I'm here because I definitely believe that we need a pathway to citizenship. My grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago, and I was not able to go to Mexico and visit him because there is no pathway to citizenship. And if we have the opportunity to pass it right now, then we need to do it, because there's millions of undocumented people just like me who share the same story or even worse things that happen to them because of SB 1070 and because of anti-immigrant legislation. And this is the opportunity to pass it right now, and we need to hold you accountable to what you told us, what you promised us that you were going to pass when we knocked on doors for you. It's not right.
All right.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and it's because of the lack of work.
She's washing her hands, folks.
In the gig economy. I need you to stand by workers. Lots of people who are like me who became homeless and
Okay, so I can't even believe that. A whole couple points that we got to flesh out right now. First of all, I think the guy went into the bathroom. You heard his voice walking right in there. I don't know what he identifies as, what gender, what the policies are in that particular bathroom, but I'm pretty sure there was a dude in that bathroom. So I guess that's just a separate issue, but it is pretty bold that he just waltzes right on in there. Now, a couple things I got to tell you about Kirsten Sinema. It sounds like she went to the bathroom. I mean, she just completed what she needed to do. She had a mission. She's a woman with a plan, went into the bathroom. All of these little, provocateurs, bathroom insurrectionists is really what they are, seizing control of the entire restroom while one of our elected officials wants to use it, I guess, would account for, I think, insurrection by America's terms. But the point here, Kirsten Sinema actually completed her task. She went there, finished. They stood by, watched and filmed the whole stinking thing, and then she walks right out of the bathroom and washes her hands. Just to be safe. And I'll make note that none of the other people in there who were accosting her, they didn't wash their hands. They went into the bathroom, and although they didn't go to the bathroom, it's COVID season, and so they didn't wash their hands. Here's Kirsten Sinema, to her credit, washing her hands. We knocked on doors for you to get you elected. You heard her say just how we got you elected. We can get you out of office if you don't support what you promised us, one activist threatened. So absolute lunacy. Now, I don't know how these Democrats think that this is going to help compel her to sort of go to their side. She's a Democrat, was up until very recently, probably will still continue to be, but just is not falling in lockstep with them. And so they're very mad at her. They're very mad at Joe Manchin, but they're not so mad at the rest of their party, I guess. So very interesting that happened here. Now, I have a little anecdote to share with you from Kirsten Sinema about what is this, 5 years ago. I got a letter from her, actually. I want to share that with you. Now, back 5 years ago, I have this letter right here. Kept it handy because it's kind of a powerful letter. She wrote me a letter, and it's from the Congress of the United States. You can see that. But it's from the House of Representatives. Okay, so you remember when Kirsten Sinema was in the House of Representatives back December 15th, 2016. She says, Robert Grueller. She says, Mr. Grueller, I was delighted to see you in the Arizona Republic's list of 35 entrepreneurs under the age of 35. This distinction says a great deal about your work, blah, blah, blah. We really appreciate your independent businesses, the integrity of your communities that you serve. It's my honor to be a voice for Arizona in Congress. Congratulations. Reach out if you or anybody at the R&R Law Group need any of my assistance in the future, and hope that 2017 brings you a lot of success. And it certainly did. Signed off on here by Kirsten Sinema, and you can see member of Congress now. She was not even a senator then. And so she sent that back in 2016 when I was very fortunate enough to be placed on that list. And I kept that letter because it's kind of an inspiration. Now, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not somebody who necessarily even agrees with Kirsten Sinema and her policies. But I will tell you this, no stinking Republican sent me a letter like that. Nobody out here in Arizona's GOP did anything like that. And that might right there might be a reason why Kirsten Sinema is a senator now and not a congressperson, because she's smart. She does stuff like that. She nurtures those different lists, and she's a pretty dang good politician by that letter. And I held on to it because it's sort of a meaningful thing. She was a representative then. Now she is a senator. And that was a good, very good marketing play. Now, that doesn't mean I voted for her, that I'm going to give her any excuses politically, but it is a nice thing, and I did hang on to it, and I wanted to share that with you. So even though she sent me a very nice letter, I would still go through these Arizona revised statutes, even if she didn't. But let's see if she was the victim of a crime. We go to A.R.S. Title 13, 3019. This is from the Arizona revised statute. It says surreptitious photographing or videotaping or filming. When is it illegal? And so under subsection A, we're going to get the broad definition. It says it is unlawful for any person to knowingly photograph, videotape, or film, or digitally record, or by any other means secretly view, with or without a device, another person without their consent under any of the following circumstances. And so we're going to go under subsection A, and we're going to look at 1 and subsection 2. Under A, what you're going to be seeing here, right? They say with or without a device. What does that mean? And so that would typically mean, you know, you sort of see in the movies where there's the ladies' locker room and you have the teenage boys and they go, there's a sign there and they move the sign and they, oh my gosh, they're undressing, right? And that would be sort of without a device, sort of the peeping Tom looking through a hole. But here what we are talking about is a cell phone, digital recorder, videotaping, filming, digitally recording without that person's consent under any of the other circumstances in a restroom. Oh, there you go. It's the first stinking line item right there. In a restroom, bathroom, locker room, bedroom, or any other location where a person has a reasonable expectation of privacy, which is a very common constitutional standard there, and the person is urinating, defecating, dressing, undressing, or anything like that. And of course, we can suspect that Kirsten Sinema was in fact urinating at that time. She was in there for about urination time, came out, washed her hands. So I think that statutory definition has been met by the Build Back Better Biden people. Subsection number 2 says in a manner that indirectly or directly captures or viewing a person's, genitalia or buttocks, female breast, those types of things, in a place that's otherwise not visible to the public. That might also be appropriate. Also here saying it's unlawful to disclose any of that stuff without the consent or the knowledge of the person being depicted. So 2 different things here. We have A, the actual recording of it, and then we have B, it's the disclosure of it. It's the display of it. It's the distribution, the publishing of it. So whoever published those videos, the person who was actually recording it could be eligible or could be criminally charged here in Arizona under subsection A1, violating, videotaping, filming a person without their consent in a bathroom, urinating or defecating. Boom, that has been met. Under subsection B, also, if they uploaded that, published it anywhere, posted it on their Twitter account, saying, yeah, good, we got Kirsten Sinema, we interrupted her pee time, and then they're uploading it and distributing it, sounds like that's another crime as well. Let's see if there are any exemptions or exceptions to this. Section C says, does not apply if the notice of the use of the photograph is clearly posted in the location, and you're kind of allowed to do that because a person doesn't have a reasonable expectation of privacy or has a reasonable expectation of privacy. Photographing by correctional officers in jail, not applicable. Law enforcement officers, not applicable. Child monitoring advice, not applicable. So now I don't think that any of these things would exclude that. And so it tells us anything that is a subsection A or B, class 5 felony. Uh-oh. It's not good. In Arizona, we've got kind of a tier, a scale of felonies. That 6 is the least severe. Number 1 is going to be the most severe. And so it's kind of not the least severe, but it's the next one up. Notwithstanding subsection D, this is a class 4 felony if the person is recognizable. Uh-oh. Which means you can sort of see her face, right? So you can identify the person. We all know it's Kirsten Sinema. Just because it's Kirsten Sinema doesn't necessarily mean that you are automatically able to recognize her for purview of the statute. What the statute means, I think it would be, even if it weren't Kirsten Sinema, even if this were just somebody who was not a famous senator, just a regular person, if you could still recognize that person based on what this was recorded, it's going to elevate it up from a class 5 to a class 4. So quite serious, in fact, and we'll see what the Arizona Maricopa County Attorney's Office does with this. We'll see if good old Alistair Adele over there and everybody over at MCAO, shout out everybody, if you guys are going to charge any of the people involved in this. Be very, very curious. I'd be very curious to see. We'll be on the lookout for it. We'll see if it goes through. Now, the White House has a take on this. We saw what we saw. Even if you're somebody who doesn't like Kirsten Sinema, maybe you're like, she's a Democrat or whatever, you got to say, look, is that appropriate? Probably not. And is it something that is worthy of condemnation? Is it something that politicians in America should be saying, we don't want that necessarily happening anywhere? I would think so, but here's Joe Biden today from the White House.
Mr. President, you're talking about how you have 48 Democratic votes right now. The other two have been pressured over the weekend by activists. Joe Manchin had people on kayaks show up to his boat to yell at him. Senator Sinema last night was chased into a restroom. Do you think that those tactics are crossing a line?
I don't think they're appropriate tactics, but it happens to everybody. From the only people it doesn't happen to are people who have Secret Service standing around them. It's part of the process. Yes.
What? What? Is that part of the process? Did Joe Biden at some point get accosted by reporters in the bathroom? I didn't know that was a part of the process. Having trouble thinking about other senators with bathroom problems. There was that one Republican senator with the wide stance. He had a different bathroom problem. Remember that? But I think that was different. I think that he was accosting an undercover federal agent, and here these are Build Back Better Biden people accosting senators in the bathroom stall. It's all very confusing. I've never lived in Joe Biden's world. I haven't lived in Washington, D.C. for 47 years like he has. Maybe it is a normal thing there. I mean, what do I know? So that's Joe Biden, of course, not really lending support to another fellow Democrat. Here's Kirsten Sinema. We're going to read through her statement and then jump into your questions. Kirsten Sinema says this is the statement following the ASU event on Sunday. Says, yesterday, several individuals disrupted my class at ASU after deceptively entering a locked, secure building. These individuals filmed and publicly posted videos of my students without their permission, including footage of taken of both of my students and I using a restroom. She says, quote, in Arizona, we love the First Amendment. We know it's vital to our democracy that constituents can freely petition, protest, criticize my policy positions and decisions. The activist group that engaged in yesterday's behavior is one that both my team and I have met with several times since I was elected. I will continue engaging with Arizonans with diverse viewpoints. Yesterday's behavior was not legitimate protest. Unacceptable for activist organizations to instruct their members to jeopardize themselves by engaging in unlawful activities such as gaining entry to closed university buildings, disrupting learning environments, and filming students in the restroom. In the 19 years I've been teaching at ASU, I've been committed to creating a safe, intellectually honest space. Yesterday, that environment was breached. My students were unfairly victimized. This is wholly inappropriate. It's the duty of elected leaders to avoid fostering an environment in which honestly held policy disagreements serve as the basis for vitriol, raising the temperature in political rhetoric and creating permission structure for unacceptable behavior. All right, so that's Kirsten Sinema, yeah, and she's not wrong, right? Not really a good look. Not sure how much that accomplishes if you are somebody who wants to bring a senator over onto your side. If anything, I think it might just harden her take, and she doesn't actually comply even harder. How's that sound? All right, so let's take a look at your questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. See if there are anything coming in. We do have a couple questions. Let's see. That was from John and Heather Halgren. They're just being very appreciative. You guys, absolutely, we love you. Good luck. Continue the fight. We'll see much, much more of you. We've got News Now Wyoming says, horrible things happen with this. When Cheney came out against Trump in the impeachment, Wyoming Republicans lost their mind for doing what she thought was right, and whether I agree with her or not. Now Sinema's getting ambushed in the bathroom for doing what she thinks is right. This is insane. And I hope the person ends up getting arrested, even though I know that won't happen because they aren't pro-Trump. Can you imagine if a Trumper followed Cheney into the bathroom to complain? Yeah, we'd probably have a whole division of the FBI swatting on in there, along with the Capitol Hill Police. We'd probably see a number of different congressional Democrats hosting ceremonies in the Capitol Rotunda, probably a national day of mourning as well, while we know that the FBI would be back at their home office playing Where's Waldo to go find all of the different bathroom insurrectionists, because they're very good at that. Very good to see you, News Now. We have another one from No Question on that one. This one is from News Now. Says, maybe the guy in the bathroom identifies as female. How dare you question it? Don't know if that is a different crime besides filming in the bathroom or not there. So, no, not to my knowledge. And who knows what's going on a university campus. I don't know what their policies are. Maybe that's just his bathroom. And you're right. Maybe I'm being xenophobic and discriminatory on that one. Who knows? Boom is here. Says, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a path to citizenship that my cousin's wife followed. She applied for a green card, got approved, became a citizen. It was long, boring, but please clarify if this is not the pathway to citizenship. That's from Boom. I think you're right, Boom. I'm not an immigration attorney, but I think you're exactly right. That was a very deadpan statement. I love that. Yeah, it's long and boring, but please clarify if that's not the appropriate process. My understanding is we have an immigration bureau here in this country that processes immigration requests, and this door's over there if you need it. But people are just, we don't know what to do. You have to help us, Kirsten. Help us. Get us all, here. And she's like, hey, I'm a senator, guys, and I have to tinkle. Can you leave me alone for 2 minutes? Good to see you, Boom. Thank you. We have another one from Thunder7 says, I'm glad they did this and expose what tyrants the Dems really are. If they don't get their way in everything, they send their attack dogs to harass and bully anyone who opposes. They are scary, dangerous people. When I heard the man, I thought rapist right away, intimidation. Yeah, they're like adult children to some degree, following people into the bath. And she had no shame. She's just like, yeah, I'm going to wait here to come out. Yeah. Do you need any toilet paper or anything in there? I got a ton because I hoarded it all last year. So, not good. We have Monster One says, this is how you know we are not a serious country. When illegal immigrants can confront a member of Congress and not get immediately deported. Who knows if they were illegal immigrants or not, or they were just activists. But your point is, look, you can just come across by the thousands carrying COVID, whatever you want, and they'll just let you in. There's nobody getting deported in this administration. Monster One says, this is how, we already got that one. We got another one from Sergeant Bob in the house. He's back. Says, as future Arizona residents, I'm heartened to know that Senator Sinema is representing her constituents. She will pick up more votes than she will lose from the crazies. I think this will make her more resolute. Sleepy Joe doesn't call out the idiots on this. Wow. Goods on her. Yeah, I mean, good for her, honestly. I got to hand it to her. She just went and then washed her hands and left. I mean, I got to hand it to you. Like, there's no better way to handle that, honestly. What are you going to do? Walk out? No, you're going to, no, I'm going. Yeah, keep filming if you want to see it. And I hope there are some repercussions. Good to see you, Sergeant Bob. Saw Sergeant Bob on the weekend over on Watching the Watchers monthly meetup. Monster One says, we got you elected. I thought it was a conspiracy theory that illegals were influencing elections. That's from Monster One. Putting one and one together, connecting all the dots. And that's a great comment. We have another one from Monster One says, quit misgendering people. That guy was clearly identifying as a woman. And they were identifying themselves as non-criminal, non-perverts also, but that didn't work out for him. ASU degenerates are in the house. Says, since you are an Arizona attorney, what charges would be for the guy for following Kirsten Sinema in the bathroom? Wouldn't harassment, filming in the bathroom? The charges, yeah, it was 133109 under A.R.S. Title 13. That's our criminal code here. Yeah, you could have harassment. You could have disorderly conduct would probably be another one that would be very common and easy. Disorderly conduct you can basically get for anything. I think that was certainly disorderly, so they could be charged for that as well. We have another one from No Question here. Says, I think the Democrats will get violent if she continues to stand in the way, and they do. Nothing will happen to them. They will do anything to protect Biden. They're very, 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 very much hyperventilating lately. China Joe Biden says, are the toilet terrorists vaccinated? That's the real crime. Not them following an unarmed woman in a vulnerable place with nowhere to run or hide. Check their vax status. That's a good point. You don't know if they were illegally unvaccinated or not there. Peely Wally says, that was ridiculous. They did that to her in her bathroom. I'm a firm believer that one of the biggest issues in Western societies these days are the under 25-year-olds. They feel so empowered, preaching about all the genders, even though there are just two, celebrating mental illness when it comes to the trans community. They also love to lecture and try to shame us about our histories. They're also huge mouthpieces for BLM and Biden. Just go back to the early 2000s. It was much better. The young need to be told to shut the hell up and show some respect. That's from Peely Wally chiming in. Good to see you, Peely Wally. Hope you're well. We have the activist says, it's okay. I identified as a woman while in the bathroom. The bigger issue is, why did Kirsten Sinema take so long to do number one and make me wait? It's from drinking all the champagne with her lobbyist buddies. While she was teaching, yeah, I mean, maybe she was out the night before with her lobbyist buddies, but she was teaching, students, and I don't think that they're drinking and educating over there. Certainly not. Sergeant Bob says, key point, does the lead-in word surreptitious govern the rest of the statute? It's a good point, right? And I think that, so it's a good point. If you're a defense attorney, you'd sort of hang your hat on this thing. You'd say, well, they weren't really filming her going to the bathroom. She knew that they were filming because she was watching them. She was literally watching them filming her as she walked into the bathroom, and that she was sort of acquiescing to it, or you could even say consenting to it, sort of a constructive consent argument, that if she didn't want to be filmed in the bathroom, going to the bathroom, that she would have left. She didn't, so it's sort of a constructive consent argument. I think they're not good arguments, and what they did was still illegal. But your point is exactly right, Sergeant Bob. You tie in on that. No, was it really without her consent? Was it really surreptitious? Was it really secretive? Not really. It was all kind of done out in the open. And, when she was in the stall, you really couldn't see anything. She didn't get down and look under the stall or anything like that. But I'll tell you this, if it was somebody wearing a MAGA hat, yeah, they'd be handcuffed in the FBI's field office right now. I mean, it'd be over. So that's obviously not going to happen here. Let's see what else. Lauren S. says, bathrooms are like base. You can't touch this while I'm in there. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Someone chase Blanca into the restroom with a camera and see how it goes. Ugh. That sounds awful. Ugh. Well, I don't know what Blanca looks like, but you could hear from the voice. It just sounds like she might actually have, some chicken wings or something lodged in there from lunch, and you know how those things come out the other end, especially a woman, like that. So you just don't know. It sounds terrible, sounds horrendous, but I get your point, Lauren. You do have to make sure that you are holding people to the same standards. If it's okay to go in there and accost a senator, then it must be okay to go accost Blanca and any of the other Build Back Better people. But it's a horrendously disgusting image. We have another one from Monster One says, imagine if that was a member of the squad and a right-wing person did that. There would be arrests, congressional hearings, impeachment, any other kind of hearing you can think of. I think Brian Stelter and Anderson Cooper over there at CNN would probably be calling for Donald Trump to be impeached again, as far as I could tell. Gail says there was also another woman in the bathroom, had nothing to do with this. Before the activists entered, she was already in the stall. You can see her leaving in the video. They violated her privacy too. With respect to our president's comments on this video, let's go Brandon. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go Brandon for Joe Biden. Let's go Brandon for Gail 08. Yeah, they violated everybody's privacy in there. Nobody wants to walk out of the bathroom with a camera in your face. Especially women. There's a good argument that women don't even go to the bathroom. From some women that I've known, they just say they don't do that stuff, and I don't understand it, but I don't argue. Soul Viking says, so glad Miss Blanca introduced herself so that hopefully follow-up contact can be made. Yeah, they're going to get back to her, and we'll see if anybody charges anybody. No question on this one says, for anyone to chase down Biden, he would have to have done something. Joe is 40 plus years. He's never done a thing other than put many people of color in jail. Yeah, I said that back during the election. Joe Biden is the godfather of the modern crime system. He is responsible for more African Americans in jail than any other person in American history. I've said that for months, and nobody's ever refuted it. The Last Villain says, Sinema sent you that letter to plant a seed. I'm sure she is still sending them out. Very smart. Totally agree with you. It's very smart. You should start sending out similar letters. Get you ready for your eventual run for local government if the world doesn't end. Aunt Maxine told them to get in their faces. The lines are just moving more left. Soon, no one will be safe from the cult. The Last Villain, you're onto something there. I actually do that with my books. So I'll actually write those books out, send those out to people. And it's for that, right? It's sort of a long-term investment. I know what Kirsten Sinema was doing. I'm no dummy. I know what she was doing there, and it works, right? It works. That's why she did it. None of the other politicians, none of the other Republicans were capable, smart enough to say, oh, yeah, hey, maybe I'm a small business candidate. I should be supporting small businesses like ours. None of them did it. She did. Very interesting. Good comment from the last villain. A couple others here. Leafy Bug is here. Says, well, that was awkward. Quite easy to tune out that monotone leftist activist drone voice, though. I stopped listening to what she was saying after about 5 seconds, just a way too long stream of words. Speaking of streams, I would have made an extra effort to make my business extra loud. And if you had a phone, you could play a few sounds for extra authenticity. Leafy Bug suggesting that Kirsten Sinema just blow it out in there. Just, oh, yeah, you want a show? How about this? She's pretty classy. I don't think she would do that. As you can see, she washed her hands even. You know, she's not going to be playing potty time with those knuckleheads. Kirsten Sinema says those Biden supporters harassing me in the bathroom are foolishly filming and harassing me. Hope the degenerates Hunter and Joe Biden. So yeah, maybe those people are just texting that right over to Hunter because he's into that stuff. Gross. We have D-Rod says, if you are DACA dreamers allowed to stay by Obama, I've been told that they have no clear path to citizenship. Something about the DACA order, executive order that Obama signed. That's from D-Rod. Good to see you, D-Rod. We have a couple others here. Another one from Kirsten. Of course, Joe laughed at the footage of me in the bathroom. He's a degenerate and loves the footage. Oh, wait, he loves sniffing little kids. Oh, what a segment. Monster One says, she said that she wasn't illegal. Said she was smuggled here at 3. Okay, so I actually also had a hard time listening to her. I was just kind of watching in shock and awe that this was a thing that they're doing. Oh, God, look who's here. Nadler's dirty diaper. We're talking about poo-poo talk and bathroom talk. So, of course, Nadler's dirty diaper is here. Oh, my. But were they a person with a vagina or were they a menstruating person? Yeah, that's a good question. Remember, women have been canceled. By the way, I'm now at 29.5 pounds. Nobody has changed Nadler's diaper yet. The last time we talked, it was like it was under 29 pounds the last time, and it's going. We're going to be at 30 pounds soon. It's like the debt ceiling. What happens if we get to 30 pounds in Nadler's diaper? It's going to be trouble, folks. The economy's going to break. We're going to run out of money. Supply chains are broken. And Nadler's dirty diaper is going to be spilling onto the streets everywhere you go. We're in real trouble in this country. We have 503 Unlimited. Says, it sounds like an R. Kelly tape in the making. Gross. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I can't even take it. Let's wrap it up. Sweet Potato says, y'all cracking jokes about the guy being in the bathroom, but if this happens at your workplace and you think someone is in the bathroom that shouldn't be, you can get in trouble if you say anything to them. Everything has to be routed through HR. It really is totally inappropriate, right? It's kind of funny to come on here and make jokes about it, but it's not okay. Yeah, it's not all right at all. All right, I can't even see. I'm like crying over here. It's no question. If these were MAGA people, they'd be imprisoned for charging the Oval Office insurrection. Totally. Yeah, they'd be indicted. They'd be held in D.C. for indefinitely. Shade says if they're allowed to do this to a senator, so sure gives us regular folk comfort. Nope, he says. Good to see you. We've got Robute says, Kirsten Sinema, Joe Manchin doesn't seem like a bad Democrat unless I'm missing something. I don't want Democrats who want concentration camps, Jim Crow, slavery, or forced medical experimentation. I mean, they seem sort of sane relative to other people on the far left-wing contingency, that's for sure. Lauren S. says, next level meaning of stall tactics. Ooh, I love that. Stall tactics. Yeah, it's stall tactics. She was in there just peeing to stall things out. And we have Dianne Feinstein says, I'm going to live stream from the bathroom with those activists and Nadler's diapers. Ugh. Dianne Feinstein, if you didn't know this, she's about 187 years old also. So between her diapers and Jerry Nadler's diapers, we're just doomed. There's nothing we can do, folks. You know, they keep talking about global warming. That's the least of our concerns because the tides are going to be all consuming us with Nadler and Feinstein's excrement. It's going to be just the worst. All right, let's see what we've got over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Couple super chats. We got Lava Java Lava says, Sinema should have left an upper deck. But that would have, yeah, I mean, look, that's going to, injure an innocent bystander. Those immigrants or illegal immigrants, they were not going to go in there and use it after her. So that's just going to be another innocent person who has to deal with that. But I get the gist of what you're saying here, Lava Javala. There needs to be some sort of repercussion for that. We have Royal Wolf says she should have just peed on all of them. I mean, it was almost urinating in public to some degree. And so, yeah, I mean, you can see an analogy there. And David Smith with a super chat, but no question on there. Thank you, David Smith, for your support. All right, my friends, I think that's it. Let me double check over here on locals. One more came in from former LEO. Says, let's go, Brandon. Sorry I missed the meet and greet on Saturday. Just another classless act by the classless Democrats. That's from former LEO. Sorry we missed you too, former LEO, but we will catch you on the next one. All of those questions came in from watchingthewatchers.locals.com and the great super chats over on YouTube. Thank you for all of your support. All right, and so we've got another segment. As I mentioned, we're picking up the pace on the show today. The Supreme Court of the United States is back in session. If you were waiting for some more political meat to sink your teeth into, more issues that are going to help to separate the country even further, well, we're in that season. It's time. Remember, the Supreme Court's changed quite a bit since the last. It's been like this for some time, but in this new term, this is the first time for a full term it's going to look just like this. And we know that we've got 6 conservatives allegedly. We've got Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh has COVID right now, so the rest of the court is appearing in person. But Kavanaugh, even though he is vaccinated, he caught the COVID, which is just the weirdest thing in the world. But anyway, so he's not going to be there at the at the Supreme Court bench for the foreseeable future. But we got conservative there. We've got Gorsuch conservative, Amy Coney Barrett conservative. We have John Roberts, the Chief Justice, allegedly self-identifies as conservative. Of course, the Judge Thomas and the Alito over here, all the conservatives. And so if you count those up, it's 6-3. We got the liberals over here. We've got Sotomayor's down here. That was Kagan. And then we have Breyer. Many people are talking about him sort of resigning or giving up his seat anytime soon. The Democrats want that to happen sooner rather than later, given the fact that the midterms are coming up and they may lose control of the Senate, and they don't want that to happen because the last time that happened, they lost the seat that Amy Coney Barrett is now sitting in. Remember, this used to be Judge Ginsburg, and Judge Ginsburg was replaced by another woman, but she's only sort of, I think, like 3/4 of a woman because she's conservative and she believes in God and things like that. So let's take a look at what the new term looks like. We can see we're starting here in October. You can see how much these people work. The green days are conference days where they're sort of meeting and talking about stuff. Non-argument sessions are marked in blue, which is for motion work and things like that. And then reds are when we have the actual oral arguments, which is what a lot of people are interested in. Then we get decisions sort of scattered around throughout the rest of the calendar. In October, you can see we have a couple cases that are coming up, but these are not really the big, more interesting cases. We've got this Tsarnaev case. Remember this? This was the Boston Marathon bomber, so his case is back up for argument soon. Today we had Wooten, which was a criminal law case. I have to sort of see what happened in that. But we can see a couple other cases are on here, but not a whole lot that stands out. Mississippi versus Tennessee. This is about water rights. And some other cases are coming up tomorrow and Wednesday. Then we're off on Monday. Come back next week with some other cases. So let's take a quick look now. Coming up in October, we've got the Boston Marathon bomber case. So it's the U.S. versus Tsarnaev. Case 20443, the Biden administration's effort to have the death sentence reinstated for the Boston Marathon bomber. You remember this case from back in 2013. One of the brothers was actually killed during that sort of investigation, but the other brother made it out, and he's been processed. An appeals court threw out the sentence, but not the convictions, meaning he's still convicted for it, but he's not going to be convicted to death. And so Biden now is going to be trying to sort of reinstate the death penalty and bring that back. I've long, sort of talked negatively about the death penalty, but a lot of people think it's justified, especially for a case like this. He killed 3 people. A lot of other people were injured and maimed. Awful, awful situation. And so whether the death penalty stands for him is going to be up for argument October 13th. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. We have a state's secrets case, which these are always fun because we're talking about the CIA and the government, Guantanamo Bay, and whether the government has the lawful authority to kind of do whatever it wants. And guess what? We always find out that they do, because they are the government and they're also making decisions about what they can do. And we've lived through COVID now, so we know that the government can do anything, essentially. But here we have a couple interesting cases coming up. These are not scheduled out until October 6th, which is going to be this week, and then November 8th. So we've got U.S. versus Zubaydah, and then FBI versus Fazaga. Two cases involve government claims that are, quote, state secrets. They say that if they disclose this information, it's going to harm national security. So one person is a Guantanamo Bay detainee. Lower court said was tortured in CIA custody. He wants information from them, from CIA contractors, and government says, oh, can't have that. State secret. Other case involves a group of Muslim residents from California. Say FBI targeted them for their surveillance because of their religion. Group's claims were dismissed after an early stage when the government said state secrets, but the court revived the case. And so this is what they always do. This is what prosecutors and government bureaucrats do all over the place. You can see it happening here with the CIA. You can see it happening with the FBI. And the answer is always, oh, well, we can't share that with you. It's dangerous. It's protected. We have to seal that. We can't give you any information about that. Otherwise, we're going to harm society. You go, all right, whatever. Same thing happens here in criminal law, even on a lower level for misdemeanor and felony cases. Happens all the time. You say, hey, Mr. Prosecutor, I need this list of evidence because I don't trust your police officer and I don't trust your phlebotomist or your crime lab specialist, and I want to see all of the documentations and calibrations and all of your operating procedures and all of your method validation and protocols for your lab, and I need to see all of that because I'm going to have my expert witness review it because I think you're full of Nadler's diaper. And in this case, the prosecutors to us, they always say, because they don't have state secrets, they're not state secrets, but they just say, oh, it's proprietary, it's confidential. If it's private information that comes from a company, or they'll tell us, oh no, it's a fishing expedition and it's overly burdensome and it's unnecessarily cumulative, and so we shouldn't have to give it to you in the first place. And the courts just go, yeah, that's true. It does sound like it would be a lot of work for you to go back there and click a couple files on your computer. And so, yeah, you're right. Those defense attorneys, they don't really need it, do they? And they just all sort of, high five each other after the court hearing's over, and then they get to continue on with their malevolence. So that's happening. We got two cases that are coming up. One taking place looks like on Wednesday, and we'll have oral arguments on the next one coming up. Guns are coming up, but not until November. Going to hear more on the guns. There's a case from New York, the State Rifle Association. It's going to be a case that expands gun rights for the United States, involving the right to carry a firearm in public. Ooh, sounds juicy. It is also the court's first foray into gun rights since Judge Amy Coney Barrett joined the high court. Now it's 6-3 conservatives. Case involves a New York restrictive gun permit law. New York State is among 6 states that limit who has the right to carry a weapon in public. Our arguments are November 3rd. And so, yeah, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It, seems pretty clear to me. I can't believe we have so much jurisprudence and debate over that Second Amendment. It's pretty clear to me, but a lot of people have to bicker over what all of that means. And so you get states like New York and California that are like, oh, well, yeah, you do have a right to carry it, but not unless you disassemble it into all of its multivariate parts, and you take the gunpowder and you take that and you put that in a Ziploc, and then you take the casing over here and you disassemble the whole thing. And if somebody's coming to murder you, well, call the police that don't exist, and they're going to take 35 minutes to get there. So it seems pretty obvious to me which way this one should go, but we'll see. We have another one from Carson versus Mackin. This is about taxpayer funding of religious schools. You're going to see this one making its way through the court, but again, this one's also not until December 8th, and so we'll see that later. But it says this is about discrimination based on religion. Going to hear a lot of religion stuff. Parents in Maine are suing over the state's exclusion of religious schools from tuition programs. This is for families who live in towns that don't have public schools. Court issued a string of rulings in favor of churches and families challenging state restrictions on taxpayer money going to religious institutions. So what it sounds like, I haven't taken a deep dive into that here, but it sounds like in Maine, you have some religious schools that are sort of outside of an area where there are no public schools in rural areas, and they're giving tuition programs to other schools that are public schools. And what they're saying in this case is that, well, we're a religious institution. We're not a public institution. There are no public institutions out here. We're serving a particular purpose. And why should we be discriminated against from getting those same tuition programs just because we're religious? Oh, it sounds like might be an interesting case. Maybe we'll talk about some school choice stuff. And then, my friends, of course, abortion. This is coming up quick. Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. So brace yourselves for this one. It's a direct challenge to Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Supreme Court's major decisions over the last half century that guarantee a woman's right to abortion nationwide. Lower courts blocked Mississippi's ban on most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, saying it was an infringement, but a more conservative court now has agreed to review those rulings. Abortions would be banned in a dozen states and severely restricted in about a dozen others if justices were to overrule their abortion decisions. Arguments on this one, my friends, December 1st. And we may have to do a live stream on that day because that's going to be a juicy day. And there's going to be a lot of very interesting cases coming up. Now, abortion, as I mentioned, this is sort of the sacred court cases that a lot of people in this country just really twist themselves up into a pretzel over. And when it ever comes up about leaving this to states' rights or allowing people in their local communities to make decisions about any of this stuff, people really get something stuck in their craw. This guy is very upset about this. His name is Christopher M. Rabb. You'll notice that he is a local state congressperson. He is a Democrat serving the Philadelphia County. Member of the House from 2017 to date. He's on the Agriculture, Rural Affairs Committee, Commerce, Finance, Judiciary, Biography, educator, and author. He went to Yale College, University of Pennsylvania. And you can see his contact information happens to be down there if you are a person living in his district. You can certainly contact him. Now, why am I talking about this guy? Well, boys out there, he wants to take your sterility away from you. Yeah. It's forced male sterilization. I think it's male. He uses a very specific term here. It's for, cisgender men. Forced sterilization for you guys. So let's take a look here. It says here he posted this in a memorandum October 2nd to all House members. The subject of this is enforcing reproductive responsibility among men. And so he sent this out over, I'm not a Pennsylvania House political person, but this is posted on the formal government public website talking about passing bills and moving bills through. So I take this to mean sort of as an invitation to have a conversation or as the precursor to actual formal introduction of legitimate legislation. And so let's see what he says. He says, for far too long, the public debate around abortion, contraception, and reproductive matters has thrust the government into the center of restrictions on bodily autonomy, women and girls. It says, rarely there is meaningful dialogue around public policy focusing on the personal responsibility of cisgender men. Cisgender men. Oh, my God. The rights of cisgender men, he says, have always been paramount in our society, with little focus on their responsibility as inseminators to charge their behaviors for the good of their partner's family and society. Now, he thinks he's very clever here, but watch this. He says, as we head towards climax, it's obvious what you're doing. As we head towards climax on this heated discourse around this delicate matter, he says, we should come together to address it with surgical precision. He's weaving some medical terms in there. We must also commit to mending the social fabric being sliced up by bitter acrimony. I think that's abortion language there. He says, in order to improve public health outcomes and release sweet justice into our households and bedrooms. What? Release sweet justice in our bedrooms? We must wrap our love of individual liberty in the moral imperative of greater personal responsibility and acknowledge men's essential role in procreation. Therefore, I will be introducing legislation that will require all inseminators. She's talking about me? What? To undergo vasectomies within 6 weeks from having their third child or their 40th birthday, whichever comes first. Well, I don't have 3 kids, but I will be 40 one day. And if this guy had his way, I got to go get snip. Because I am a biological male and I identify as a male. So I think that puts me in the cisgender category. And you know what? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you out there who are in that category with me. So 3 kids, that's it. Snipped after that. Or you're 40, no more kids. You just get snipped. Oh my gosh. My mom is not going to be happy about this law. Further, this legislation will allow Pennsylvanians to take civil action for unwanted pregnancies against inseminators who wrongfully conceive a child with them. Okay, so if you go and impregnate a woman and it's your third, or you're 41 years old, $10,000 fine. Legislation is going to empower Pennsylvanians to enforce this law with a $10,000 reward for reporting to the proper authorities those scofflaws who have not complied with the statute. As long as the state legislatures continue to restrict the reproductive rights of cis women, trans men, and non-binary people, there should be laws that address the responsibility of men who impregnate them. Thus, my bill will also codify, quote, wrongful conception to include when a person has demonstrated negligence towards preventing conception during intercourse, which is like an actual, that sounds like a real statute. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, he says. In spirit of the popular axiom, I encourage my colleagues to take a gander at this forthcoming bill that seeks to end this egregiously gendered double standard for all the benefits of individuals and our great Commonwealth. Okay. So, all right. So that's Congressman Christopher M. Reb, the destructor of the inseminators, the vasectomy God King out there snipping men as soon as they turn 40. 40th birthday. Off with it. Sorry, gotta go. All right, so that's one way to govern in Pennsylvania. Interesting that they do that there. Let's see what you have to say about this over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have a couple questions in here. Oh, man. I'm Not Gas is here. Says, a moth goes into a podiatrist's office and says, what's the problem? This is a Norm Macdonald joke. And the moth says, what's the problem? Moss says, what's the problem? Where do I begin, man? I go to work for Gregory Ilinovich, and all day long I work. Honestly, Doc, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't even know if Gregory Ilinovich... I can't read the whole thing. It's too good, and I'm going to botch it. I can't read the whole thing. I'm not gas. Go watch the Norm Macdonald version of the joke. He does it on Conan. It's way better than anything I could botch right here. It's an amazing joke. Sorry, I'm not gas. I didn't read the whole thing, but we're on a time crunch, and it's just too good. Norm Macdonald, the moth joke, Conan O'Brien, amazing. News Now Wyoming says, speaking of the Boston bombing, I'm still sad that nobody sued over the cops forcing their way into homes to search them, threatening arrest. Would it have been interesting to hear if your rights to privacy not being invaded in your home is still in place, even during the time of strife? I've never seen proof that anyone ever filed a lawsuit, only whined about it to the press. Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I don't remember the specifics of that News Now back then, but certainly, right, their arguments are always going to be exigent circumstances. I would imagine at that point, by the time they got to the home, didn't they find him in the boat or something like that? And they kind of knew where they were. And so I would imagine they'd have warrants up the wazoo for everything. And so that would never, you know, my guess is that there would be no exculpatory evidence or something. I'm sorry, that would be excluded evidence that would be a result of unlawful access to the property. I would imagine that they were warranted out hard on that case. We have another one. No question says the SCOTUS calendar you showed had maybe a cumulative month of worth of colored days when they're doing oral arguments and conferences. What on earth did they do the rest of the year? Well, they're Supreme Court judges. So, you know, presumably they're reading statutes, and I don't really know what they do. Yeah, who knows what, I don't know what they're doing. I can't. Shade says, been a while, but there were articles on the Boston bombers at the time stating they were both FBI informants. We all know how that works now. Dead man can't talk. So I don't know about the specifics of that. That was before I was doing my show and before the FBI was responsible, at least in my world, for virtually everything that happens. Sergeant Bob says, I'm with you on defense reviewing evidence. If it's accurate evidence, no issue. Good to see SCOTUS on the Second Amendment. By the way, I liked carrying Glock 19 whilst in Arizona. Having said that, rights also carry personal responsibility, often of great gravity. No question about that, right? And I sometimes I can get pretty cavalier about, you know, about that, right? But a firearm is a very, very serious thing. It's a very serious tool, and it is something of great importance. That's why it's the Second Amendment. I don't try to be cavalier about it, in practice. So I probably should be a little bit more careful about that on the show. Good to see you there, Sergeant Bob. Thanks for chiming in, and glad you got to have that nice little tool of justice on your hip here. We have former LEO says in his position that women who have an abortion should also be sterilized to prevent future abortions. Let's go, Brandon. I don't know. I think that might be his perspective on it. It's obviously a terrible, stupid argument, but that's what he's in the business of doing. So he does it. Thunder7 says, I'm all for it as long as the nutcase proposing the bill is the first to be sterilized, then his male family members and colleagues, and all Democrat male politicians. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. They need to be called. Great idea, Rab. Thank you. Yeah, so just go ahead and start in your your local district, and then you can just work your way out, and you can just sterilize all of your supporters, I guess. Would be the end of your political party, but okay. D-Rod says, is this called eugenics? I think they do this in China. CCP population control sort of rules. Not getting better over here. Yeah, that's happening now in America. We got John Snipped Already Helgrens in the house says, this has to be a Babylon Bee memo. His email was hacked at that's Guam capsizing level of stupid. I'm sure some mind-altering consumables were involved. But John, he is an author and an educator, so he was sitting there just really enjoying himself too much probably with all of the little, medical jab. I'm going to put the word climax in here. Look at me, how clever I am. I'm an educator, and I'm a state senator, state house representative. And look how clever this is going to be. And so at all the cocktail parties that this guy goes to, everybody's going to just be high-fiving him. Did you see that that thing that Rab made out there? Yeah, he's really given to those Texas Republicans, isn't he? And so he'll get some accolades for that. John Snipped Already Halgren. Yeah, so John has nothing to worry about. Oh, John, love you, buddy. All right, good to see you. We have another one here from Diane Feinstein. Did someone say climax, she says, with a winky face? Ugh, Diane Feinstein's winky face at me. The Last Villain says, I didn't realize there was legislation out there that requires a woman to scrape out her uterus. God does that. Miss Lucky says, a little bit off topic, but Sergeant Bob is 75 years young today. Happy birthday to you, Sergeant Bob. Happy birthday to you, Sergeant Bob. Happy birthday, dear Sergeant Bob. Happy birthday to Sergeant Bob and Miss Lucky. Thank you. Happy birthday, Sergeant Bob. That's a good one. 75, that's a good one. Looking forward to getting there myself, my friend. Going to be a good one. Happy birthday. Hope you two are really enjoying it. All right, we have another one from Nadarb says, did you see Kamala's cackle audio I tagged you on in locals? It's for the button. No, I didn't click it. I'll go look at it, Nadarb. We have the simple solution to all these cases at the Supreme Court is to Control F on a PDF of the Constitution, type in abortion, right to bear arms, see what happens. If it's there, it will tell you what you need to know. If it isn't there, well, then it's up to the states. Super simple and easy. Why is it so hard? Well, it's because they don't like the original Constitution, and so you've got a bunch of lawyers and bureaucrats and judges and politicians and idiots who are doing everything they can to twist it into all sorts of different permutations to concoct it into what they think it should be. And so we've got all these things. Oh, legislative history. Oh, yeah. Well, we should just go talk about whatever those moron Congress people were talking about. They didn't write it into law, but we like what they were saying better than what they wrote down, so we're just going to go listen to that instead of this. And you just play this game round and around we go. We got news now. Says they entered every house in the neighborhood door to door, broke down doors if people didn't answer. Ugh, that was on the Sarnov stuff. I'm Not Gas says, if Sergeant Bob is worried about the gravity of a Glock 19, he should try carrying a Glock 43. Much less gravity. Jerry Nadler's Dirty Diaper Changer says, I would change Nadler's diaper, but as a member of Antifa, I disappeared because we are a myth. If old Jerry would just retract, I will come back. It's a double-edged sword on that one. And Leafy Bug, last one, says, forced male sterilization is totally equivalent to the Texas heartbeat law. Cons owned again. Great job, big brain, purple tie guy. That's from Leafy Bug. Over on YouTube, a couple super chats came in from Dab Gangsta says, Rob, it's not so much harm to society, more so protection of sources and methods. Happy I'm not in D class anymore. That's from Dab Gangsta. Thank you for that, Dab. We've got Wolfgang says, being alone in the bathroom is a civil right. as is the ability to be let alone in a university. Love you, Rob. Swooped in just in time for the Supreme Court. Good to see you, Wolfgang. Haven't seen you in a while. And I'm glad that you're around here. And those, my friends, were the questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com and from YouTube. Thank you for your support everywhere. I do appreciate it. All right, we've got one more segment left. We're going to have to fly through this, but we should be able to make it. The global financial elite. We hear about them all the time. Who are these people? These people who are sort of escaping taxation, the people who use offshore companies to maneuver their money around to buy up gobs of land, all while the peasants at home, the people who have to pay taxes every month, it just comes right out of your paycheck, right into the federal government. We don't get much of anything other than a continual evisceration of civil liberties and rights across the board. Meanwhile, you just have to keep feeding into the coffer. You have to just keep funneling it over to the federal government because they're going to be good stewards of your money. Right? Wrong. Turns out that a lot of that money that is being sent over shores to different dictators around the world are being used, all that humanitarian aid, all of that foreign aid, foreign support, military aid, it's all going into yachts and property for some of the most rich and powerful people in the world. So let's take a look at these. These are the paper that are called the Pandora Papers, the biggest ever leak of offshore data that exposes the financial secrets of the rich and powerful. We're talking about 100 billionaires. We're talking about 30 world leaders and 300 public officials. They've got secret deals. They've got hidden assets. They are the world's richest and most powerful. There was a gigantic trove of leaked offshore data, the biggest trove in history. It's called the Pandora Papers, includes 11.9 million files on companies that were hired by wealthy clients to create offshore structures and trusts in tax havens. Places like Panama, Dubai, Monaco, Switzerland, Cayman Islands. They exposed the secret offshore affairs of 35 world leaders, current, former presidents, prime ministers, heads of state. Also shine a light on the secret finances of more than 300 other public officials like government ministers, judges, mayors, military generals in more than 90 countries. Now, a lot of this stuff actually isn't illegal, right? It's allowed. You're allowed to go do these things. You're allowed to create offshore companies and go find tax havens and these different things. The big problem comes into play when you start talking about the double standards. Many people get elected into these positions. They run on the backbone of saying that, oh no, we're for ending corruption and we're all for accountability and transparency and we're for ending the corruption that my predecessor was a part of. And I'm going to change everything as soon as I get into power. Then they get into power and guess what happens? It's the exact same as the old guy. And so we're seeing a lot of that. Now, there are more than 100 billionaires in this stuff. Many use the shell companies to hold luxury items like property and yachts and incognito bank accounts. Even art that was looted from Cambodian antiquities, things like paintings by Picasso and murals by Banksy. They reveal the inner workings of a shadow financial world, rare window into the hidden operations of the global offshore economy that enable some of the world's richest people to hide their wealth and in some cases pay little to no tax. And so we talk about this all the time. It's rules for thee, but not for me. If you are part of that global elite, if you are part of the financial superstructure that exists, well, you operate in a different plane. And sometimes literally, right? If you are a person who flies privately, well, then you just got to follow the rules. You got to put your mask on, check your bags, make sure, you in some cases present your vaccine passports and all of that stuff. Those are rules for the little people. All of the politicians, all of the global financial, they don't play by those rules. They take their private planes. They don't have to follow any of those same precautions. They go to parties where everybody doesn't have to follow the rules, but everybody else does. Here, they just get to decide how to play, and they're doing it well. There are emails, memos, and corporations, records, share certificates, often created by opaque shell companies. Nobody can see what's inside. 600 journalists worked on this document and sifted through all the materials, and they talk about these representing the latest and largest in terms of data leaks that we've ever seen. It started off when back in 2016, there were 2.6 terabytes of data that was leaked from a law firm named Mossack Fonseca. This was called the Panama Papers. And so there was a law firm that existed that was enabling all of this. And so something happened, all of their documents, 2.6 terabytes of data. Do you know how much data that is? Like an insane amount was leaked. And that was just the opening of the door. And so Mossack Fonseca, the law firm, they're not around anymore, right? They sort of dissipated because they leaked all of their clients' documents. Then the following year, 2017, we saw another 1.4 terabytes of leaked data. These were called the Paradise Papers. And so those came out from a different company called Appleby, another offshore provider that would help these billionaires facilitate these financial transactions. And then we lastly see these. These are the Pandora Papers. You can see it's scattered all over the world. 2.94 terabytes. 14 different locations in total: Vietnam, Belize, Singapore, the Bahamas, and elsewhere. Other wealthy individuals, let's see, it cost the government billions of dollars in lost revenue. It's all about lost revenue, yeah. 18 months analyzing the data, and we can see who's involved. The King of Jordan, for example, this guy right here, along with his wife, King Abdullah II, Queen Rania, the Arab world's longest-serving monarch, disguised ownership of his properties in a series of offshore firms. $100 million footprint spanning from Malibu, California to Washington, D.C., over to central London's most exclusive postcodes. Property empire shows zeal for the secrecy, disguised his ownership through offshore companies like the British Virgin Islands. Multi-million-dollar properties, guess what? How they were acquired? They were acquired as U.S. economic and military aid to Jordan quadrupled, and Jordanian citizens were subjected to austerity as part of the International Monetary Fund bailout for the resource-poor country. That's very nice, isn't it? The U.S. cares so much about global stability and prosperity that they just shipped over a bunch of money to this guy, quadrupled their economic and military aid to Jordan. This guy goes and amasses $100 million in property all across Malibu, California, Washington, London, anywhere you want to go. It's pretty nice. It's beautiful. Let's take a look at one of his properties. 3 clifftop properties over in California's Malibu coast. That's nice. Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to, to live like that, I guess. Not on the back of total corruption and robbing your people and robbing America and amassing everything for your private selfish gain, but beggars can't be choosers, can they? Now, Jen Psaki got asked about this. I haven't listened to this clip. Let's see what she had to say.
The main underlining issue seems to be that sheltering of assets of the world's rich, powerful, and sometimes notorious
Get to the talking points.
Are getting promising levels of protection and secrecy that now rival or surpass what was seen overseas now in the United States. What, if anything, does this administration want to do about addressing this matter? Should states be allowed to continue to set sort of these financial regulations that make some states, including Delaware, some other states, particularly attractive for these trusts?
Well, broadly speaking, the president is committed to bringing additional transparency to the United States, the U.S. and international financial systems, and you can see that in policies he's proposed and supported over the course of his presidency and even prior to that. In June, he issued a memorandum establishing fighting corruption as a core national security interest, and through work responsive to this memorandum, the government, we have elevated efforts to curb illicit and opaque financial transactions at home and abroad, including by reducing offshore financial secrecy, robustly implementing federal law requiring U.S. companies to report their beneficial owner to the Department of Treasury, and as necessary, identifying the need for new reforms. He's also pledged to work with partners and allies to address issues such as the abuse of shell companies and money laundering through real estate transactions, something that we've certainly seen and was a part of this reporting. And I'd also note that last year, Congress came together in a bipartisan fashion to direct the Treasury Department to develop a beneficial ownership database that will meaningfully increase transparency and accountability. I would also, last thing I would say, and then you may have follow-ups, is, if you look at the president's proposals in the Build Back Better agenda, he has been clear he wants to make the tax system more fair, wants to crack down on people who are not paying their fair share, whether they are businesses or whether they are individuals. That has been central to his policies, his proposals, and central to what he's fighting for in Congress right now.
He's been in the government for 47 years. Do you think that he's not been the recipient of any of this? I see YouTube is really, enamored with Jen Psaki, so I just kind of let that clip go on, But okay, so that's Jen, right? So the kind of the point of all this is, do you think that this is only going on in these foreign countries? Do you think it's only going on in Jordan and the UK and these other places? No, this is everywhere. This is just how these people operate. And so, yeah, thanks, Joe Biden. He's going to come out here and do a bunch of stuff. He's been part of this entire operation for the last 40 years. We've gone into it, a lot of this with Burisma, with Hunter Biden and the Ukraine stuff, and the list goes on and on. But let's take a look at some of these other Just amazing people. We have the Azerbaijan president, Ilham Aliyev. He's got 67 million. Company operated as a front for the family that runs a country routinely accused of corruption. And of course, they declined to comment. So there's this guy and his spouse just ripping off the people. We have this person over here, the Czech prime minister. His name is Andrej Babis, says Pandora Papers are going to cause political upset for him. Why? He's up for election this week, facing questions over why he used an offshore investment company to acquire 22 million in the south of France. He also declined to comment. 22 million bucks. Nice little place to retire. We also have the UK. We've got Tony and Sherry Blair. They saved $312,000, or is that euros, in property taxes. They purchased a London building partially owned by the family. They bought the $6.5 million office after acquiring a British Virgin Islands offshore company. The move was not illegal, but there's no evidence that they proactively sought to avoid taxes, but it just highlights a loophole that they use. Oh, it's not commonplace for ordinary Britons. And so you got a lot of that, right? It's not even illegal. They just have access to the knowledge and the money and the financial wherewithal, the resources to be able to do certain things that you can't do. And they come in, and the stuff that you have to do, well, they just, it's for your own good. This is for America. Everybody has to pay their fair share. Everybody's got to be a part of the solution. And it was all Trump's fault anyways. So you see a lot of that. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is also named in the link. He's got 25% stake in an offshore company to a close friend who now works as the president's top advisor. Elected in 2019, pledged to clean up the country's notoriously corrupt and oligarch-influenced economy. Then became one of them. Very nice. Over here in Kenya, same thing. Uhuru Kenyatta going to come under pressure to explain why he's got $30 million of offshore wealth and property in London. Interesting, because in 2018, he said every public servant's assets must be declared publicly so that people can question and ask what is legitimate. So he just takes his $30 million, shoves it off shores, and then does not respond to inquiries about whether his family wealth was declared relevant. It's amazing, folks. And if you think that this is not happening here in this country, yeah, it's obviously happening. It's happening every day. It's all these people do. They're just kind of getting in there to jockey money around, pay this guy, promise this guy that. I get paid over here, promise him this, deliver on this contract. Around and around we go. These people are all corrupt and disgusting. And so I'm very hopeful that there are more information, more documents in there about all of our politicians. I would love to know the truth about all of them. Trump, Republicans, Ted Cruz, all of them. Let's really see what's going on there. Why have those not been leaked? I'm sure they exist. Do you think that all of our politicians are just as clean as the wind-driven snow? I doubt it. We got time for a couple quick questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Then we got to wrap up out of here shortly. We've got Sergeant Bob says, thanks. I'll borrow Miss Lucky's 43. They're strapped up over there. They're strapped. You don't have to worry about them. They're locked and loaded, ready to go. Mustang Jeff says, hiding money offshore to avoid paying taxes. Why am I not surprised? Yeah, because they talk a big talk about everybody having to pay their fair share, and then they all go across and do everything they can to avoid it because they know how to do that. Sergeant Bob says, tax the rich. Yeah. Right. Yeah, we know how this goes. The rich don't play by the same rules everybody else does. Julian Assange says, I released the Panama Papers years ago. Nobody arrested to this day. Boris Johnson received a $750,000 gift to the Conservative Party from a corrupt donor guilty of mass bribery, refusing to return it. None of the elites will face a day in jail. They all protect one another. Exactly right. Yeah, they're all on the winning team. We aren't. News Now says, I haven't felt less trust in government or their spokesman since Clinton's, depending on what your definition of is. Which is like not a bad statement by contrast, right? At least he's like, okay, you have an issue there, but I'm going to try to argue it both ways. Right now, it's like, oh, there are no issues. And you're like, yeah, there's a ton of issues. No, there aren't. And you're a racist for saying so. And if you say it again, we're going to cancel you and we're going to ban you from everything and we're going to fire you from your job. In addition to that. So yeah, it's an entirely different America. That's from News Now. We have one from Nike is here, says, Robert, can you believe this? Can't read that from Nike Inc. Yeah, I can't read that one. Monster One says, sorry, I'm not against people keeping their own money. Their fair share argument is the BS the top earners pay all the taxes in this country. However, I am against tax money going overseas to make people rich there. Yeah, Americans are paying for these people's property. You heard that. Military aid, economic aid. Where does it go? Oh, King Abdullah's $37 million property. Former LEO says, I noticed nobody asked Potato Sack about the intrusions into citizens' banking for any transaction over $600. Right. They want everybody else who can afford it to offshore their financial transactions. They want the IRS to come into yours. Anything that happens in your bank account, the Biden administration is pushing for this. Any transaction, I think $600, is that the new limit? IRS just gets an automatic update. It's like they can log into your bank account, register, and bought this. Oh, he's not paying taxes on that. I guess I better go wreck his life. That's what the IRS wants. So they can govern everything. Greg Murad is here. Saw him over the weekend. Says, I remember that president from Azerbaijan from 2013. He released the election results that year before the polls even opened. Then he redacted it, won by an even bigger margin on that day, which is just amazing. And then we've got Leafy Bug says, are any of the seriously rich and powerful global elite implicated here? Are any of the Davos Inner Circle people on the hook? Interesting who is not being mentioned here. Seems like a bunch of Russians and a third world people we already knew were rich. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all, right? The information that you get is sort of the low level. It's the peasants of the rich class. The real people, no, their stuff never gets leaked. Jeremy Matrita says, Rob, Pandora didn't have any papers. Pandora's jar or box remains locked. Therefore, there is nothing to see here. Information is meaningless, even if it can be substantiated. It's nothing but a conspiracy theory. Don't look behind the curtain, says Jeremy, not liking what you're going to see. And our last question is from Vienticus Prime, says, part of how the Koch brothers got so rich as they were taking oil off the Indian reserves to sell is they skimmed a little off their top. It was their fair share. And those were great questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Got a great community over there. We had an amazing locals meetup that took place this past weekend. I want to welcome some people who joined the community last week. We have Maxime27. We got Unbridled Form. Avia Tricks. Burnt to a Crisp is in the house. Let's Be Fair. R. Taylor. J. Muay Thai. We got Lula G. Maxim92. We got Angel Baby. Hellraiser. Jumpin' Jeff. And Desert Daisy. We also had Skip Money. Rob's mom, which is actually my mom. Buzzdog. W. Trash. Phil in Flyover. Miles Away. Kendra. Brenneman. Anon. Earthboy. And no one you know are over there being a part of the Watching the Watchers.locals.com community. And you can see Miss Beth Coddington is in the house. Says, hey, Robert and all, great meetup this weekend. Sorry I had to cut out, but I had company. Looking forward to the next one. Well, Beth Coddington, I typed up notes from our entire summary of our meeting because people had a suggestion saying we should also pool some information together. So I've got a summary coming out of not verbatim what was said, of course, but just about what happened. And that's going to be posted here in about 38 minutes over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. So if you missed that, you're going to get a quick summary of that typed out along with some good links, some links to some of the books we talked about and to some of the other resources. And so our next monthly meetup is going to be not on Saturday, October 2nd. That was the last one. This is going to be November 6th. So 1/11/6, November 6th, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. I certainly hope that you can join us there, my friends. But that is it for me for the day. I've got another meeting I got to jump into. And so we are going to be back here, same time, same place tomorrow, doing it all again, 4 p.m. Arizona time, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, and for that one Florida man. Everybody else, have a tremendous evening. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.